Welcome to the SBH Show Breakdown. In this breakdown, I'm going to be breaking down episode 2 of the Striped Bass Hunt Show. It's actually going to be the first breakdown episode that we're doing, and what I'm going to be doing in this video is I'm going to be going over the techniques that I used during the entirety of this episode. Okay, so let's get it started. Man, this intro is amazing. Shout out to our sponsors. Yeah, I'm gonna actually pause it right there. So the first thing that really happened, and this day was kind of interesting, is this is what? I'm gonna say this was probably before the May full moon for sure. And I was out fishing and there was schools of bunker offshore, and there were like pretty decent sized bass feeding on these schools of bunker, and there's birds flying around them. So in this exact shot here is a drone shot of these birds that were following these bunker schools. Unfortunately, because of how it was sunset, the light was bad, so you couldn't see them on the drone. But we were really fishing these bunker schools, trying to pull these bigger early season bass that day. And yeah. This is how I caught my first big bass of spring. Okay, I'm gonna stop it here too. Just go over a little bit. So I'm using Spro swivels attached to, at this point I was probably throwing 65-pound fluorocarbon, and if I was fishing with eels, it would be an Owner circle hook, and if I was fishing with plugs, it would just be like a 175-pound tactical angler's clip or something like that. One of the second largest tactical angler's clip. Carbon Surf, which is the rod that I was using for this, was the Canal Carbon Surf, as well as the smallest version of the Carbon Surf, like Estuary Back Bay. Skip ahead a little bit here. Okay, so I was doing a lot of eeling at this point and rig dealing, because really those are the best ways to get finicky bass to feed. And I was just throwing a lot of rigged eels. Like that was a rig deal right there. And the crazy thing is those are like what, 23 to 25 inch bass. And I mean, that's not nuts, but it's still, you know, I was just saying, like I was happy at that point to catch nice, healthy, fat fish. Okay, let's get that again. So in this section here, I was fishing like these. This is on a live eel right here. You know, and you gotta remember this is before the full moon, and this is shot all before the full moon in May, so that all these bass here that are high 20-inch fish, you know, are solid for that time of year, and I was happy getting them. You can see covered in sea lice. That's a sick shot. That's a really sick shot. Yeah, all on that rig deal. I mean, it was pretty much, it was a little bit endless, you know, it was just lots of like fat, chunky spring bass, which is just so cool to see these healthy fish like this. And they were fighting too in the cold water, they're pulling. Yeah, so yeah, that's a nice one. So my setup I'm running right here is a GSB, a Lama Glass GSB 10-foot 3 to 7 ounce rod. On a black Van Staal VSX 275 spooled with 80-pound braid, attached to my Spro swivel with 60-pound Blue Label Seaguar leader attached to the like 175 or 170-pound TA clip, or the second biggest one. I can't remember exactly what the ratings are on the TA clips, but that's what I'm running to a rig deal. And I mean, that was that's a thick bass, you know, 20 something inch bass is probably what, 24, 25 inches. So that time in the spring, I was just super pumped catching fish like that. This was on a live eel. My first keeper.
Oh, that's a keeper.
It's tough because I'm pretty tall.
I'm a competitive person
and a pretty big person, so it's really hard to tell how big these fish are when I'm holding them up like that. And so it's sometimes tough to, like, they don't look giant, but it's just the nature of filming this stuff. Okay, let's move along a little further. Yeah, this is a cool segment here.
Constantly thinking about wind direction and where I would be fishing in that exact moment. And even something as simple as a raindrop gets me excited, just knowing at that exact moment the bass would be turning on.
Yeah, rain is huge. So that's something that's really important to like think about here. If you want to get on a really good topwater bite, and I even did it the other day with bass that were 40 inches. There was a big thunderstorm that rolled through, and right when the storm was over, don't fish during lightning, everyone, but right when the storm was over, I went out and I hammered 2 bass that were like 40 and then like 43. So like that just shows you on topwater. And this is again early spring. We're in the harbors and in the estuaries filming this topwater stuff, and during a rainy day. And what it does is it turns on the bite. And the funny part is about this, we did that interview before this segment was even shot, where I said rain turns on the fish, and then I happened to be out fishing in the harbor one afternoon, and I was casting out, and I had a 30-inch bass crush my little like jumping minnow 4 times. And so I immediately called my camera guy. I said, get down here with the long lens, we're gonna get a 6 segment here. He came down, it was still raining, and then we proceeded to not really catch very many fish, but the amount of bass that were hitting the plugs was just ridiculous. We, you know, fished for probably an hour when it was raining, and we were just getting hits almost every cast. That's such a cool shot. So right there, okay, that's another really cool thing to think about right there. So a lot of the time, striped bass will do these like drive-by swim-bys, where what they'll try to do is they'll try to hit the plug with their tail. There's another one in here that it does that too. And the point of that is to really try to like injure the bait. And you'll see them do that, especially bigger fish like to do this too. But you can see them, the schoolies do kind of the same thing, where they swim by it really fast, trying to disorient the bait, or just to really check it out. But yeah, that's what was happening there. Boom. Look at that. Oh, absolutely launch it. See how he flicks his tail around like that? Let's just go back a little bit here. Yeah, so you got this one. And then, was it that one? No, it's this one. Ready? He hits the plug up, and then to disorient it, wham! He tries to hit it with his tail. See? So that's the fish trying to like disorient and kill the bait, really, so it has an easier time eating it. And this was just insane. Like, you'd swear I don't have hooks on this plug. 1 hit. 2 hits. 3 hits. That bass hit it 3 times and then decided not to eat it. Didn't even get pricked too. There's another one trying to hit it with its tail. They're not the greatest at doing this, but you know. Man, this segment is amazing. Boom, again, trying to hit it with its tail. And then the wake. I hooked that one. No, I didn't hook that one. This is the one I hooked. Again, oh, that was a big fish. See that? this fish here that's coming up, I think was probably 28 to 30 inches. Yeah, look at that tail. That was a little bit bigger fish. I think I pricked that one actually. I didn't end up hooking it though. Again, see, trying to hit it with his tail. They grabbed it with his mouth and they come by. That was the one I hooked. That one really wanted it. I had to keep this section in just because it's such a cool section. Wham. They're such powerful fish, you know, even as such small schoolies. They're just super powerful. It's crazy when you get bass that are like 40 inches doing that, so. Which happens. Okay, and then this, yeah, okay, so then we have the rig deal section, which if you guys want to watch that section, you can go back to the actual thing. Yeah, and then that's me doing the log. This is kind of a cool segment on the bunker schools, but again, just watch the show. Yeah, we're gonna go to here.
And turn my anxiety into supreme confidence. All I could think of was casting off those same rocks the previous season and landing my biggest bass of the year.
Yeah. I had some questions about this on my Instagram. That fish there was 49 inches and it was 48 pounds. So it was a beast of a fish. And you could see with the boga, look at that. Oh, it was so close to 50 pounds. I mean, that was a big fish. And I actually caught that on the Lamglass GSB Skinner rod with my VSX 200 Van Staal spooled 50 pound super slick line, and it was on probably might have been on a big leader, but I don't know. I want to say it was probably on a 65 or 60 to 80 pound leader. Like it was, but I was eeling as well, and that's when I got that fish. And then from that fish changed how I really looked at a lot of things as far as gear wise goes. And then because of that fish in particular, I ended up bumping up to like a bigger Van Staal because of this fish. Scared me how much line I took out. Oh, that was just had the shoulders on that fish. It was
tricking a bass that spent its whole life avoiding capture.
So this day,
4-foot window. I cast.
So this day, it was blowing pretty hard the day before on shore, and it blew a lot of seaweed in. Like the water was full of seaweed, but this day was overcast and foggy, which is by far some of the best conditions to fish for striped bass. It just really froths them up a lot, and I just felt so confident that entire day leading up to it that we were gonna end up catching a nice fish that day, because I was seeing them the day before cruising along these cliffs, like, you know, 35, 40 inch bass cruising along these cliffs. And a week later I landed a 40 inch bass. So in a different area, but still, like, there was a lot of nice fish around this point is when they really started to show up in like early June. And I literally casted this Puma Plug shad stick or shad swimmer onto the top of a boulder, and it just drifted off the side of the boulder in the wave sweep, and that fish came up and smashed it. But what happened is there's some swirling water that dumped into this little area, and there was literally, you could only take like a few cranks on your reel, and that was like the only strip that was clean. And I was lucky enough that there was a big one there. Yeah, here you go. And as soon as I hooked into this fish, I mean, it's funny because when you go all winter not catching any fish and then you get that first big hit, look at the water, how juicy that is. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna pause it here. So you have, there's a boulder there, and there's a boulder there, and there's also a boulder here. And then there's some submerged boulders along that side, but you can't really see them because they're behind me. But what happens is it goes from probably just past those rocks, it's probably 30 feet deep, and it goes up really shallow really quick. And the waves crash in and they sweep across here and then in between these boulders here. But you really have these kind of cylindrical pointed rocks that are side by side, and there's this one little channel in between that's a little bit deeper than the rest of them. And I've caught a 48 incher out of that. I've caught multiple 30, like mid 30s, and then I've had one day where we caught probably close to 20 bass over you know, 40 inches out of that exact spot. I mean,
I then felt the immense weight of a big bass grabbing onto the eel.
and you can see me here.
Into the bass.
I'm doing very short pumps, just trying to keep as much pressure onto that fish as possible. My drag was very tight, so I wasn't letting him fight too much. And he was hooked, thankfully he was hooked from that head hook, because it's a little scary when they're hooked from the tail hook at the rig deal. And then I was able to, the wave sloshed him up onto the rock there. And that stuff's all covered in seaweed, so that's not bad on the fish at all.
Okay.
Look at that.
Oh,
It's a nice fish.
Holy shit.
It's a fat fish too.
that is awesome.
Measured him out, 35 inches.
35 inches.
Nice
It's a
fish.
35-inch bass. Literally at a
It's
bar.
funny because now, like a 30, look, also, this fish has a defect in its mouth from where there was a hook. So its jaw goes all the way back there. And my first big bass of the season last year had the exact same defect in its mouth, which is really funny. But it had that little cut out right there on the side of its face. You'll be able to see it better once we bring it into the water a bit. If you guys didn't notice that, I mean, it's a pretty fish too. Look at that, thick, healthy, big shoulders. The fin was up. I mean, it was not kept out of the water for long at all. And then we have our waterproof housing on our big camera, so we were able to get some amazing shots of this stuff. Yeah, look at that. See that defect there? I don't know if you'll be able to see that as well, but like, look, it goes back further right there. I mean, that was just a mean fish. Yeah, there we go. You can get a better shot of it there. Look at that. Must have had a circle hook right there in its face or something. It probably broke someone off, and then it slowly dissolved that side of its mouth. But it seems to have been doing pretty well for itself. It was still a very fat fish, so it wasn't in bad shape at all. Oh, bit my thumb there. So I turned it around. So this is what I'm doing here. So he bit down on my thumb there, so I'm like, okay, he's starting to get ready. So I turned him around. I grabbed onto his tail. All right, I think, well, I did a little bit more revival here, and then I grabbed his tail there, so he was kicking. I grabbed his tail, took my hand out of its mouth, and I was holding on to it, and we were actually trying to set up a shot here, but he kicks away so hard before, as a wave, right there, he just kicked away super hard, and I couldn't hold on to him, and it came sliding out of my hand.
That it's never been before, and the season has barely begun.
Well, this is the best part of the whole show, in my opinion.
We can tire him out. Holy crap, this is a big bass. Oh my god!
So, I'm not gonna read too much into that, but there's some stuff that I've even held from Instagram and everything like that that you guys will end up seeing in the future. And I mean, the season started out pretty fast after this. I mean, we had a bunch of weeks after this was done, or after the shoot of this was done. And it was funny because we ended up shooting all of this video really even before we heard back from people that wanted to sponsor the first show. This show was already done filming, and so was the next one for that matter. So we were 2 shows ahead, but that fish was caught like in the last section where I was like hoping that we could start into some bigger fish. And we were super fortunate to have landed that 35-inch bass. I mean, now like this part of the season, 35 inches is not that big, but for early June in May, that's like a nice fish, and it was really that thing that kind of clicked everything in my head. I almost knocked my computer off. Clicked everything in my head to really tell me that, like, okay, I've done this. I did this last season. I can pattern them down again. The fish are not changing. The bass are still as aggressive as they used to be, and that was super awesome for me to really be able to have that reassurance in my own head that I can do this again. I can repeat my season. And who knows if I'll be able to land as many 40-pound bass as I did last season, but we'll see, because we're coming into prime time in August, and that's when the fishing gets stupid crazy, and we have some extraordinary stuff to come. And the next few episodes are just very, very hot. Anyway, thank you guys for watching the breakdown episode. In this breakdown episode, I mean, it's gonna be a little bit more technical, and it's gonna be on the more technical stuff that I'm doing, but it's very important. And what we, I had a lot of discussions back and forth editing this. Do we add more technical stuff, or do we hold it off for a separate thing? And I think it was smart for us to hold it off for a separate thing and just make more short film style shows, and then have the technical side brought out now. Again, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this show, and we'll see you next time.